Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is always a true honour to stand in the House of Commons and represent the beautiful riding of Peterborough-Kawartha. I actually believe that today what we are talking about, which we have been talking about now, it's almost a year to the date, is one of the most important pieces of legislation that this Parliament will ever discuss and decide on. And if you don't know about it, I can promise you with certainty that it will either impact you yourself, if you're watching, or someone you know. What we're talking about is MAID, medical assistance in dying. Now, the Liberals have put forth this notion to extend MAID to people with mental illness. Yes, you heard me correctly. It sounds absurd, doesn't it? Because it is absurd. It is the worst message you can send to somebody who is in despair, that they are not worth saving. It is the worst message as legislators and policymakers that your life doesn't matter. I don't think I can name a person in this House who doesn't know somebody or they themselves haven't had their own battles with mental health. So for the government to say, we are going to put forward legislation that doesn't put more resources or money or time into understanding and better understandanding mental illness, which includes substance abuse, where 22 people a day in this country are dying from overdoses. No, we're going to offer you MAID. This must disturb you. This must make you get up. This must make you speak loud. And I don't care where you sit on a political spectrum, this is the legislation that you should be deciding your vote on, because it is a huge statement to what we as Canadians stand up for. I want to read to you, to be eligible for MAID under the Criminal Code, a person must have a grievous and irremediable medical condition which is defined as a serious and incurable illness, disease, or disability that has led to an advanced state of irreversible decline and intolerable suffering. It is impossible to determine irremediable in individual cases of mental illness. Many experts have been clear that MAID for mental illness cannot be implemented safely. Dr. John Maher, a clinical psychiatrist and medical ethicist, said, and I quote, "Psychiatrists don't know and can't know who will get better and live decades of good life. Brain diseases are not liver diseases." And as my colleague, who's a medical doctor from Cumberland Colchester, has attested to multiple times, this is, you cannot say with certain what is going to happen to you. You don't know what tomorrow is. And I'm going to read you the most powerful letter into the record because I think it is critical for everyone to hear it. I also want to tell you that in February of 2023, so just a year ago, 30 legal experts from across Canada wrote an open letter addressed to the Prime Minister and Liberal cabinet ministers to dispute the claims that the then Justice Minister, who had repeatedly made that his government was bound by the courts to expand MAID and make MAID available for persons whose sole underlying medical condition is mental illness. This is hard to comprehend because I spent hours trying to decide why. Why would you want to do this? And you know, my 14-year-old said to me on the weekend, "Mom, if you're in a state of mental illness or bipolar and you're in an extreme low, you can't make a decision that is right for you. That's the whole thing. You need help. And this legislation, you can, in that state, ask for MAID." What? In what planet does that make any sense? It doesn't. I'm going to read this letter into the record. It is extremely powerful. Kayla has been writing to me since this first came aboard, and she's been very vocal in letting me share her story, and I shared her original letter, and now that she knows they want to extend it, yet again, instead of throwing it out, she wanted me to read this to every member in the House of Commons. "Hello, Michelle. I am thrilled to hear that MAID for people with mental health disorders as their only condition will not be put into place next month. However, it is deeply disturbing to me that the Liberals think time to get this right makes it better. What will be the difference in 2027? They will still be offering death to people who may very well live long lives with improved quality of life. In my own darkest moments, I also thought things would never get better. I thought I would be sad and scared and hallucinating for the rest of my life. But they did get better. An offering made to people like me when in their worst moments is robbing them of the opportunity for things to get better. It is robbing people of the opportunity to receive help. It is robbing them of the opportunity to heal. It is also disgusting to me that death would be offered as a solution to people with mental health disorders when the resources for people with mental health disorders, at least where I live in Ontario, are in shambles. People are living on the streets with addictions. People are coming to myself to help them get help, knowing that I have been through my own dark mental health struggles, and I am at a loss for where to send them. Wait lists are long, and while I know of some early psychosis intervention programs, people who have been struggling past early adulthood have nowhere to go but the hospital, where they can't stay forever. I want to tell you about my dear uncle. He lives with paranoid schizophrenia. He recently hit rock bottom. He lived on the streets for over a year, and not for a lack of my family trying to help him. He almost died of pneumonia. Every time my family would take him to the hospital and try to get him help for his mental health, he would be released. Then he would get arrested and return to the hospital only to get released again. This went on for years. I understand a normal hospital doesn't have resources for him, but the point is, no one knew what to do. But back to MAID. This idea needs to be scrapped. Offering death as hope to people in mental health crises is despicable. Just because it is a needle does not give people more dignity. It denies the dignity that already exists in every single human life. Just because the government hands you the knife while smiling doesn't change the fact that you are handing you the knife to kill yourself. Our lives are not useless or lesser just because we struggle with mental health disorders, and it is time the current Canadian government started to believe that. Thank you, Michelle. Kayla. Can we please give Kayla a round of applause for her bravery? She has spoken up so many times about this and in genuine distress. And you know, I heard my colleague across the way, the Liberal member, I can't remember his riding right now, Winnipeg North, say that he, you know, struggled with this because it's so personal. And he said that this was the best, this is what his constituents wanted. And my question to him would be, I would like to see the data. I would like to see a referendum that this is what his constituents want. That they would rather MAID be offered medical assistance in dying than support, help, resources in understanding how the brain works, why the brain does what it does, and what is mental illness. I challenge him right here, right now, to give me that data. Because I can say with certainty, the families I know, the children I know that are on wait lists over 2 years long don't want to be offered death. They want hope, they want treatment, and they want solutions. And this is insane that we are even having this discussion. Well, we'll just extend it. And do you know what the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction said in this House? It's not a matter of if any longer, it's when. That's what she said. This is such a deep ideology that they can't even say, okay, all right, we get it. We heard from the 30 experts. We've heard from the people. This doesn't make any sense, and there's no science here. We'll pull it back. This was a mistake. There is no shame in admitting it was a mistake. We are here to make people's lives better, not worse. And absolutely, without a doubt, this message of, you know what? Yeah, it's not going to get better. So here, sign this paper. We're going to give you MAID. If you are watching, if you have voted Liberal and you are loyal, please, I plead with you today to look at this. This is the most disgusting piece of legislation that has ever been put on the floor of this House of Commons, and we must invest in mental health and treatment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
First of all, Madam Speaker, no government has invested more in mental health than under this Prime Minister and this Liberal government. What a joke coming across from the other way, trying to give an impression, Madam Speaker, someone that's is having a difficulty of having suicidal thoughts could just go to a place and get a rubber stamp saying here's a pill or here's an injection. That's just stupid, Madam Speaker. My question to the member, if she's so brave, why won't she come to any high school in Winnipeg North and have a debate on the issue with me? Will she accept that challenge? Come to Winnipeg North, let's have a debate, and let's invite a few people over in a high school. This way, we can't be accused of trying to make it lopsided one way or another. Will she come to Winnipeg North?
The Honourable Member Peterborough-Kawartha.
1,000%. I hope that he will pay for the plane ticket himself to send me there, and I will be there with bells on. I think what that member said, which is so disturbing, is that he said that their government has invested more in mental health than any other government. What a fallacy and an insult. I don't know who he's talking to, but I have seniors and family members and people calling me that are living on the street that are using a food bank. What do you think that does to mental health? When we have, 35 out of 38 in the OECD of teen suicide in this country, but they've invested the most. When you have a wait list of almost 2 years for a teenager who needs access to mental health, but they've done the best job, what about that $4.5 billion mental health transfer that was supposed to happen? Yeah. Where's that?
Where is it?
I'm sorry, but the stats speak for themselves. We have never been in a worse mental health crisis under that Prime Minister who divides people and makes them not want to live than that Liberal government.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Montcalm. Yes, Madam Speaker. It would have been good for the colleague to sit with us on the Standing Committee of Health, on the Special Committee, rather. I think she's confusing things. It's not because you make a request that you're eligible. And all experts, whether they're for or against MAID, have affirmed that you can be in a suicidal state and it can be reversed. So I don't see what the issue is. We shouldn't just be shaking things up for nothing. Someone who is newly treated and who is offered, well, first of all, we don't offer MAID. It's a request, but you're not eligible. And I would invite her to read the recommendations from the expert committee on this.
The Honourable Member Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you to my honourable colleague. I guess my response to that member is, why are you offering medical assistance to dying to somebody who has a mental illness when what they need is help? It doesn't make any sense. As I said, I can't reconcile those two things. It doesn't make any sense. And you do not know with certainty whether or not somebody is going to get better. Why would you put that into legislation to even make it an option? It doesn't make any sense.
Yes. Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford. A brief question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, there was a letter that was signed by 7 out of 10 provinces in all 3 territories that are asking the federal government for a delay. So the case is bolstered by those health ministers and ministers responsible for mental health and addictions. Now, we have a very tight timeline. We have 2 sitting weeks left until the law changes. And there's plenty of blame to be assigned, but this week we have to step up to the plate as parliamentarians. So through you, Madam Speaker, my question to my honourable colleague is, are the Conservatives going to support this programming motion 34 to get this bill to the Senate so that we have the time, because otherwise the law is going to change, and that is the fact that we're dealing with.
The Honourable Member for Peterborough-Kawartha, a brief answer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And what a backward place we work in. Why are we even having this legislation? It shouldn't even have been here in the first place. So why are we expanding it when it shouldn't even have existed? Right. Like that, it doesn't make any sense. So now they're like, well, you know what, we only have so much time, we got to expand it because we shouldn't have put it in there in the first place. Are you going to support it or what? Like, what? It is such a backward place. If you hadn't have put this in place in the first place, you wouldn't even be here having this discussion. You should not be offering this legislation, period.
Reprise de débat.
Resuming debate.